Welcome to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So, stay with us as right now we present. Well, I'm very excited today for a couple of reasons. Number one, I want to let everybody know that this is the first week that we are doing our show, Positive Talk Radio, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific, every week, every day. So you can always tune in to Positive Talk Radio at 3 o'clock on Pacific time in the United States of America. And you can listen to some of the great people that we have on. And today is no exception because we've got a great author. She's just put out almost a year ago, well, maybe about a year ago, and it became a number one seller in Canada as a novel. She is originally she's from India, I do believe, and she's got lots of stories to tell about that, and she's a terrific writer. Her name is Saborna Roychowdhury. I think that's close. Is that close?
Oh, it sounds wonderful. It's the closest. Yes, very, very close.
Oh, very, very good. How are you today, my dear?
I'm doing very well. And thank you for inviting me to your show. And I'm very pleased to be here
Well, I'm
and
glad
talking to
I'm
you.
very glad you're here. Where are you right now?
I live in Houston, Texas. So actually, I live in the suburbs of Houston. I live in Sugarland, Texas. And I'm talking to you from my home.
Oh, very nice. And Sugarland, Texas. What's the temperature there today?
Yeah, that's something to worry about because it's 100 degrees, well, 103 degrees outside, and it
Oh.
has been like this for the past 2 months. So we had heat advisory almost every single day, and we didn't have any rain. So we are in, stage one drought conditions right now. We are not allowed to water our lawns. I mean, we cannot water them more than twice or thrice a week. Yeah.
And
Um,
so everything's brown.
Yellowish, yeah, the grass is yellow and the bushes are getting yellow, so we are very worried because I've lived here for 15 years now and I've never seen anything like this year has been terrible.
And it's getting worse all over the planet. And it's
Yes.
and for those among us who think that global warming is a hoax, I'm here to tell you it's
Yeah.
not.
Yes.
Those of us that are living through it, and you are living through it in a
Yes.
really big way. So just stay cool, and I imagine you have to have air conditioning, right?
I do. Can I switch on my fan? I switched it off because of the noise.
Go ahead and turn it on and we'll see what it sounds like. I
If you get
can't.
any background noise, let me know.
I will, and so far it's not. And if it keeps you kind of cooler, that's much
Yeah.
better. Anyway, I would hate for you to get overheated talking to me. So, so
Thank
you're
you.
an author, but you also are. Um, you had a career before you were an author. What did you do before?
So I came to US when I was just 18, 19 years old, and I wanted to study chemistry. That was the love of my life. And so I wanted to do a PhD in chemistry, and so I came as an undergrad here, and I pursued, a couple of masters in chemistry. So writing was not in my life at that time. I did not ever think that I would end up as a writer. So I finished my chemistry degrees. I went to teach. I taught college. I taught high school. So I was very happy with my chemistry life till I took a workshop in writing and find out I could write.
And it became a bit of an obsession for you.
Yes. When you realize how healing writing can be and how fulfilling writing can be and how it can help other people heal as well, you want to do it. You want to do it more and more. So I'm very grateful that I took this writing workshop. This was years ago. This was in Boston. I used to live in Boston before I lived in Houston, and I took this writing workshop from Grub Street. It's it's a writing community, and I had this wonderful teacher, and he gave us a writing prompt. He said, why don't you start meditating? He switched off the lights of the classroom and he said, start meditating. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and after the 5 minutes you are going to pick up the pen and you are going to start writing. And he said, so when we picked up the pen, all he said was, who do you see? Okay, who came before you, or who do you see? And that night I saw a girl, who I recognized instantly, because she was a maid who used to work in my aunt's house in Kolkata. So she used to be a maid in India. And I recognized her, and she had a very tragic story. So I started to write about her, and this became a short story. And this short story was actually expanded later on to become my novel, Everything Here Belongs to You. If you want to know more about the girl, I can tell you.
Well, I do know that the in reading some of your work, I know that in some parts of the country, in some parts of the world, women are not treated. They're not treated very well, and in this particular case, her father, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, but her father would come and she worked all the time, and he would take her money, and she was funding their family and left with virtually nothing.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
she felt like she there was no way out for her. And so sadly, at one point in time, she took her own life.
Yes. So this part of the story is actually based on that real girl that I used to know in my aunt's house. So yes, it is fiction, but in the beginning, Parul's story that you read is based on this real girl. Um, so she used to work for my aunt, and every month her father used to come from the village and demand her complete entire salary. And then on top of that, he would make all sorts of excuses to her that this month has been very cold. I need to buy an extra blanket, or I need to repair the roof of my house, or, I have asthma. I need to buy medicine. So he kept on extracting more and more and more money from her. And the girl was very frustrated. She used to come to my aunt and she used to cry and say, I, what does he think? Am I his bank? Am I going to just keep on supplying paper notes to him for the rest of my life? um, and help me in some way. But my aunt, she's a very nice person. She wanted to help, but there was nothing she could do, because if she said anything to the father would say, "This is my family matter. You stay out of this." Right? So, this went on for months and months, and then one day. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. The girl always came down the stairs to work, right? She used to live in the terrace room in my aunt's house, and my aunt was calling her name. It was 6 o'clock. She was very perplexed that why is the girl not coming down. And then she went up the stairs, and she opened the terrace room, and there she was hanging. So the girl had used her sari as a noose around her neck, and she was hanging from the ceiling fan. And my aunt, she felt her legs, and the legs were still warm, so she had just done it, right? So my aunt is a very brave person. She took her down, and she tried, all sorts of things, CPR included, to revive her, but she didn't come back. And all the family members gathered there. And then the father came from the village. The girl's father came from the village. He got the news. He came from the village, and he started shouting that, you killed my daughter. I left my daughter, and it was your responsibility to take care of her, and you killed her. And then he demanded lots and lots of money. My aunt was able to give him some, as a compensation. He wanted money, but of course my aunt could not give him the amount that he demanded. So he went back to the slums, and he got a lot of people who came with sticks and stones and started to break the windows. And then finally the police came. It was a huge deal. So this girl and her father never left me. And that day, a chemistry teacher just closed her eyes, did some meditation, went into her subconscious, and saw that girl. And I felt that the girl wanted me to tell her story. It was very urgent almost. That she wanted, people to know
I
what
yeah,
happened to her.
what happened to her and why, and that dad's story, and as it turns out, dad was just pissed off because his bank had just died.
Yes. So, he used to actually, we found out later on, he was quite a drunkard. Like, he used to drink a lot. And so he used to use her money to drink and gamble. And here she was, working day and night, washing dishes, washing clothes, sweeping the floor, and accumulating money, bit by bit, and only to be taken away by her father. So, enormous amount of exploitation, unbelievable tragedy.
And it's a shame that there are so many places in the world where that goes on. That's when they talk about trafficking, one of the things that they talk about a lot of trafficking is that parents sell their children to other people because they need the money to survive, which is one of the bigger aspects of trafficking that's out there.
Yes.
Um, and it's a sad thing, and it's hard. In India, I imagine being a woman. It's hard to be a woman in India.
So, in my story, there are two women, right? There is Parul and there is Mohini. So Parul is a maid, and she comes to work in Mohini's family, and Mohini is the employer's daughter. So there's obviously, both are female, but both their lives are quite different because
Uh-huh.
Mohini's father is a weightlifter. He's very well known. So they have a big house. She has a bank balance. She's going to go to college. So her future is very secure, and she's well cushioned from all sides, right? But Parul, the maid, she lives in constant fear and uncertainty because she doesn't know what her future is, what is going to happen to her. And she lives in tremendous amount of poverty. So I show in my book that these two girls have a very close relationship. They're like sisters who grew up in the same family and love each other. However, there's tremendous amount of class difference between the two of them that ultimately pulls them apart. And that's how the story evolves, that they drift apart from each other, and that leads to a devastating that has a devastating consequences to this family.
And that is the name of that book is Everything Belongs to You.
Everything here belongs to you.
Oh, sorry. Everything
Mhm.
here belongs to you. What's the premise behind the title?
Yeah, so even though Parul, the maid, and Mohini, the employer's daughter, are extremely close, right? um, Parul always feels this discrimination in this house against her, right?
Right.
While Mohini goes to a very rich and prestigious private school, Parul goes to a free Bengali medium school. Mohini is always told, by this family that you will grow up and you have to study hard and you are going to go to college. But Parul is told that, you are sooner or later you're going to drop out, so don't worry about, doing your homework. You have many chores, household chores to do, so focus on them. Parul sits on the floor while she eats. She has separate plates and cups in this house, and she has a separate bathroom. So she constant, and she's not allowed to sit on the furniture of this house. So she feels this constant disparity, discrimination, that this family sends her this message that you are not at you are not at our class or our level, right? So this type of classism really alienates Parul from this family. And
Well,
so the
sure.
title, Everything Here Belongs to You, is almost like Parul telling Mohini that even though you say this is my house and I'm your sister and your mother calls me her daughter, I don't really belong here. Everything that I see around me actually belongs to you, and that is the truth.
Help me understand this. Why could she not sit on the furniture? That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me.
Even to this day, if you go to India, maids are not allowed to sit on the household furniture because it is considered that they come from very poor homes, and they don't have proper hygiene. So if they sit on the furniture, they may, I don't know, soil them or something. Um,
Do they not allow them to, like, I don't know, bathe or take a shower in the house?
no, 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 no. They're supposed to take shower. So if you're living in with the family, then you have a separate bathroom. Okay. But if you're coming from, if you're commuting to the house, then you're supposed to take a shower in your own house, right? But uh, it, it is always considered okay. So let me just tell you how they justify this. So the mother in this family keeps on telling Mohini, okay, that just remember that you are the daughter of a Bhadralok, okay? That means um, in Hindu belief, there are two types of people. There are Bhadraloks and Chotolok. Bhadralok means bigger people and Chotolok means smaller people. So Bhadraloks are supposed to do white collar jobs. They live. They're supposed to go to school and college. They are cultured. They're educated, right? And Chotoloks, they do menial jobs. They're small people, and they have to live this life, because they must have done some kind of sin in their previous life. So they're meant to live this way. Nobody should feel sorry for them. So Chotoloks get a completely different treatment from Bhadraloks. So Parul is considered to be a Chotolok, and so she has to accept that in this life she's going to suffer like this. She will be always discriminated, and she has to make up for her sins. So yeah,
Well,
that's
I,
why she's
I,
not allowed to. Yeah.
I'm just curious because are these just because of their religious background, or is it their ethnic background, or is it kind of a combination of both?
It's a combination of religion and caste. Caste is very important in India till this day. So there are upper class and lower class. Okay, so the caste system has been in the part of India I come from. They would call it Bhadralok and Chotolok, but it's actually upper class and lower class
And
caste.
who
Yeah.
decides who's upper class and lower class? Is it by virtue of the money that the families always had?
No, this is a religion. I mean, Hindu religion has set up this kind of caste system. There are four caste systems, right? And the lowest caste will always have their own occupation. They are supposed to be, they will do all the menial jobs. And the upper caste, which is the Brahmin caste, they are supposed to go do education and prayers and have high level jobs and things like that, right? So the Kshatriya class, which is the second highest class, they are warriors and they are supposed to go and fight. And then there's another class which is supposed to do business. So everything in Hindu religion, everything is defined that whatever class you're born into, you will take up that occupation. Okay.
Now, is that because of their belief in reincarnation, that you're born into a specific class because of the sins that you committed in a previous life?
Yes, exactly. So if you commit sins in this lifetime, you pay for your sins by being born into a very lower class in your next birth.
That sucks.
Yeah, it is awesome. And this can go on for generations. I mean, this can go on forever, right?
Because if you are
Hmm.
born into that class, then you are the sins of your father or your grandfather or somebody or in a previous life for you, they get visited upon you continually and continually forever.
Yeah.
That's a weird system to operate. Does it? So, well, number one, I'm glad you're here.
So that's why I
We don't
wanted to
we
shed
don't have
light on this system that, these are things when you are inside the culture and when you're inside the society, you don't see these things. I mean, if you think about me, I grew up in India and I grew up seeing these kind of girls appear in my house from time to time to work as a maid. They would be 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, and they would come from the village, very poor family. And my mother would make these things happen, right? Like she would have separate plates for them. They would not sit on the furniture, they would sit on the floor. They would not go to good school. I saw them firsthand and I did not think anything of it because I was inside the culture. I did not think that child labor is wrong, that bringing a child from uprooting a child from her own natal family and bringing them to the city is wrong. I did not think of the child's rights. It's only after I came to America and I saw a different culture, a different way of living, a different way of thinking, that I think that child labor is wrong. And what is happening to these girls is wrong.
Now, does it happen to boys as well, or is this primarily a girl-driven thing?
No, both young boys and girls come to live in these households and work. For boys, I've seen them work in many businesses, like they can work in a grocery store. So if I go to a grocery store in India and I say, oh, these bags are very heavy, I cannot lift them, I cannot take them to my car or to my house, then a 6 year old or a 10-year-old boy will appear from nowhere. Okay, very thin, emaciated kind of boy, and the shopkeeper will say, hey, take these bags to the lady's car, or take these bags home for her. So the boy would follow me. I would be walking home and the boy would have 15 bags with him following me, laboring away. So child labor is so common and nobody thinks anything about it. That
So,
the boy should be in school instead of carrying my bags, right?
so we're talking about 6 or 8-year-old kids that
Yeah.
are ripped from their families, taken into the city,
Hmm.
and they live. If they live with the business owner, then they're treated as a second-class citizen, and
Yeah.
then they work as a 6 or 8-year-old. They work all day, every day.
All day, every day. Yeah. There are no holidays. There's no Saturday and Sunday in that life. Yeah. And if you
Well,
do any, if you make any mistakes, then the shopkeeper is going to slap you on your head or your neck and say, so yeah.
that is it is so contrary to what happens here, and because we've
Yes.
got child labor laws and that sort of thing, and kids, we try and hopefully kids will have an education, and not it's far from perfect here,
Yeah.
but that would be so when the kids are taken from their homes, are their parents compensated for that? Or do the kids have to give their parents part of their salary?
That's how
Uh,
it happens. Yeah. And so always, the father and the mother comes and collects the salary from the kid. Yeah.
and from the shop owner themselves, or from the kid, the shop owner pays the
From the
kid?
shop owner. Yeah. So the father would come and collect salary from the shop owner. The shop owner won't give it to the child. He will give it to the father.
So you could
Yeah.
have a child, you could
Yeah.
you could have a dozen kids,
Hmm.
and they could all be working in the city,
Yeah.
and you as the father are making money from the children.
Yes.
And that's how you're living?
Yes. So the father doesn't have to do any work. He can even have, he can have addictions, right? He can go to card games, which is gambling.
Yeah.
So the father can have a very luxurious life, and the children, that's why they want to have more and more children. It's because children bring money. Yeah.
Isn't it that is just amazing. And your books, which everything here belongs to you,
Hmm.
is the one that is currently out, and um I'm glad you're bringing this to light. I never would have even, when we talk about trafficking, and this is a form of trafficking, because the kids are destined for a life of they're do any of them learn how to read or write? Do they go to school at all?
Yeah. So this is what happens. They are usually put in very poor government schools. And then I actually visited a government school in my neighborhood just to learn what's happening there. And I saw a lot of empty benches. So I asked the teacher that, why is your classroom not full? What's going on? There were like only 6 or 7 students there. And she said, it's so hard to get them to come to school because their parents want them to go out and earn money. So if they get a job and they earn money, that helps the family. So I cannot entice them, or I cannot tempt them to come to school unless there's a lot of food. I mean, if there's a great lunch in the school, then they will come to eat the lunch. Otherwise, they will come for a few days and then drop out because they're making more money. Their parents want more money. They don't see the value of education.
What is the lifespan of a child who's been working since 6 years old for their entire life. And at what point do they get married and then they repeat the same process when they have kids?
Yeah, so it can go both ways. So the kids, when they grow up, they find some kind of job, like they can become a driver. In India you have chauffeur driven cars, right? And people don't drive themselves, they get drivers to drive their cars. So some of them become drivers, some of them work in industries, menial jobs. But then they get married, they have children. But now when I went back to India, I noticed that they have become a little bit, the city dwellers have become a little bit more cautious. They are understanding that it is important to get their children education, because otherwise they will be stuck in that same situation that they are. So I noticed that they are saving money and trying to push their own children to English medium schools, and and forcing them, almost beating up their children if they don't go to school. So this culture is changing in India. I noticed that. I interviewed a lot of people, and they told me that they want better futures for their children, and they do understand these public schools, or government schools, are not giving them the right education, and sixth grade education takes you nowhere. So they are pushing their children to complete high school, to go to college. Things are changing. There are better opportunities now. Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad things are evolving and are changing in the right way.
Yeah.
And so, but and by the way, thank you again for shedding a light to this, and because it's so beyond my thinking that it's even possible, but it happens all the time.
Yeah. And as I said, I mean, it doesn't bother Ma or Baba in this book, right? I mean, the father and the mother, they actually think that they are the saviors of the maid, right? That they saved the maid somehow by giving her food and shelter, and they are doing her an enormous favor by keeping her in the house. All the time, they're ignoring, the dark reality of her life, that she was snatched away from her own family. She had to give up her religion. That is the most important thing in my book, that to live in this family, Parul has to give up her religion. She's actually Muslim, but she has to live as a Hindu in this house. So this girl, she gives up her future. She sits at their feet all day, and she has to give up her religion. And the family, they think nothing of it. It doesn't bother them at all, because everybody's doing it. When everybody's doing it, it's somehow justified. All the middle class families in India are doing the same thing. So why is it wrong?
That's amazing. That's just simply amazing because you
Yeah.
know I know that um, religion in some parts of the country and some parts of the world, being a Muslim or being a Hindu, is very important to the individual, to the family, and stuff like that. And to become a now, correct me if I'm wrong, but to become a Hindu, if you were a Muslim, you're now ostracized by both religions. Is that
Yes.
fair?
Yes. Yes. So basically, the way I have set up my story is that Parul is born into a Muslim family. When she's in the village, excuse me, her father is Muslim, and she comes to this house when she's only 6 years old. And the father tells Ma, the mistress of the family, that my daughter needs this job very badly. You have to give her the job. But the Ma says that, but she's Muslim. How can I keep her, right? Muslims are not allowed to work in Hindu families. So Ma says that the only way I can let her work for me is if she changes her name. So her original name, Parul's original name is Mumtaz. It's a Muslim. Sorry, it's a Muslim name, and then she changes her name to a Hindu name. And Ma tells Parul that you cannot tell anyone that you're Muslim. As long as you work for me, you will live in this house as a Hindu girl, and you are going to follow Hindu customs and Hindu religion and Hindu rituals, and you are never going to tell anyone, not even in a whisper, that you are Muslim. Because otherwise, if our family members come to know that I have a Muslim maid, they're going to stop talking to me, right? Um, they're going to ignore me, right?
I gotta tell you, it it floors me. First of all, um, in the United States, it's freedom of religion, or in some cases, freedom from religion. And so we don't look at it the same way as some other cultures do, like
Yes.
in India, where if you are a Muslim, you can't talk to a Hindu, or vice versa, or you can't work. I imagine the same holds true, that you can't work if you're a Hindu, you cannot work for a Muslim, or vice versa.
Yes.
And that and
Same thing. Hmm.
so it becomes very class centric. The whole system is based on class and religion.
Correct. Yes. And poor women, they suffer this every single day. I interviewed several Muslim girls who say that, I live in the village and I need work desperately. I have to go to the city and find work. But because I'm Muslim, they won't give me work, right? Most rich Hindu families will not give me work. So what I do is they said that they dress up like Hindus. So they wear, a red vermilion dot on their forehead, okay, and they wear shell bangles on their arms, and then they wear a sari, and they don't cover their head, and they come to the Hindu family and say that I am actually Hindu, and they take a Hindu name. So they keep on working in these Hindu families, even though they're Muslim. They keep on pretending that they're Hindu, and just to earn a salary, right? And then one day, if get caught, like in my story, Parul gets caught because she covers her head and she bends down to pray, and that's when Ma catches her. So if the owner of the house, the Hindu owner, ever sees them praying like that, or putting on some kind of minority symbol, then that's going to give them away. Then they are immediately fired from the house, so they lose their job.
Yeesh. I've got to ask you,
Mm.
because, and I don't know whether this is prevalent in the book or not, but it seems to me that if you are taking on young girls who are living with you and staying with you, that there's a potential for there to be abuse of that child, and also either physical abuse, mental abuse, or, I hate to say it, even sexual abuse. Is that true?
It can happen, yes. Um, Yes, I have seen little boys and girls who came to my house to work. We used to live in an extended family with lots of aunts and uncles, right? And I have seen them getting beaten often if they do make a mistake. And the biggest fear is that if anything goes missing in the house, then that child gets blamed. I have seen so many of these cases where the mistress of the house will say, my gold jewelry is missing, I cannot find my necklace, or I cannot find my earring, and immediately the suspicion falls on that little child, right? That you took it because you are an outsider, right? So, and then the police will be called. Even the police beat up these children to make them confess, right? So of course, they are told that, oh, you are my son, you are my daughter, but they are not. They are outsiders, and anything goes wrong, they will be blamed, and there's no one to protect them. They're completely helpless.
Well, all I can say is it's important that books like yours get written and read, because even though this is a fiction, it's a fiction based in reality.
Yeah, of course. Every writer, they draw from their own experiences. The moment I touch pen to paper, I'm sure, even though I'm thinking they're imaginary characters, I'm sure, my real experiences are coloring my characters, right? Or what I'm writing. So, yeah, I somehow feel that this made, she wanted me to tell her story, especially Muslim women are so underrepresented in literature today. They don't get their stories heard, they don't get a voice. So that's why I selected, a Muslim maid to be my protagonist in this story.
Well, I think it's important that women, well, and and we were talking about a little bit before the show, that it's important for women to be treated fairly and to be treated equally with all of us um, smelly old men that are out there. And it just amazes me that in some cultures that women are treated as so much less than men, and get abused, and they lack education, um, all kinds of things that are really bad for us as a society as a whole.
Absolutely. And then if you think of the other character, Mohini, yes, she's in a much better situation than Parul, right? That she has all the privileges of having a house, a car, a bank balance, a good education, all of those things. But even then, she suffers because Mohini wants to be a weightlifter. Her father is a weightlifter, so she also wants to be a weightlifter. And this is her way of connecting with her father, showing her love for her father. And also, she's very ambitious. She wants to win competitions, she wants to get good at this sport. So, from very early on, she goes to her father's gym and she learns weightlifting. But then her all the relatives notice that Mohini's body is changing because she's getting more and more muscular. She's getting more masculine, right? So they get very worried about her, and they say that, Mohini, you have to stop weightlifting because if you look like this, no one is going to marry you. Okay, you will never find a husband. So this sport is not for you. This sport is not for girls. So you have to get out of the gym. So Mohini's father keeps on supporting her, but all the other members of the family, they create a huge deal out of this, and they try to take Mohini out of weightlifting, and ultimately they succeed. So Mohini and Parul both, even though they are class apart, they are both struggling in my story. They have their own struggles. I mean, it's a contrast that I show in the gym, that the young men, they are working out and they are pumping muscles, whatever, pumping, they're getting
Something
more and more
right. Yeah.
muscular.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're getting more and more muscular, and they're getting empowered. And the girls in this house, they're struggling with their own limitations, and the way society treats them. Both of them, they have their own story, which and they're struggling against, or they're fighting against.
So is it like boys are allowed to do and achieve whatever they like, and girls are allowed to grow up and have babies?
Right. So the expectation is that the girl definitely needs to marry and have a family, and she should do. There are only certain occupations she's allowed to do. She should not try. She should not venture beyond some of the limited things that are told that she is allowed to do. Like, she can be a teacher, a doctor, a writer, things that will keep her home, right? And make her look pretty. And then she will, yeah, when she grows up, she will get married and have a family.
Now, at what age is growing up? What does that mean in these societies? How
So
old
that
is it?
also, yeah, that also depends on what class you belong to, right? So in Parul's case, Parul is 16 years old in my story, and she thinks that it is time for her father to find her a husband. Okay, because in her village, almost every girl gets married at 15 and 16, and the father does find a husband, but not for her, but for her sister, who is only 14. So in the village side, even to this day, girls are getting married at 14 years old. But Mohini, who comes from middle class, is going to go to college. And when she's 23, 24 years old, that's when the pressure will start, that it's time for you to or time for us to find you a husband.
So, is it accepted in these cultures that the husbands are chosen for you? Don't the girls have any say in this?
So once again, Parul's class, usually arranged marriages are very common, but these days we do see love marriages also. um, and Mohini's class, I mean, there is this conversation or dialogue in my book between Parul and Mohini, where Parul says that my father will find me a husband, and Mohini says you should find your own husband, because you have to love him, you have to spend the rest of your life with him. So why are you waiting for your father to find you a husband? So it depends on the family, on the religion, on the class, all of those things. But yes, arranged marriages are still common in India, and the way they happen is, the parents look into the same class, I mean same caste, sorry. They would try to find a husband from the same caste and the same religion. So they usually have like a matchmaker who will bring them alliances, right? And the matchmaker will come to the daughter's house and show alliances, maybe photos of the groom, what he does, and what caste he belongs to, and the age. So then the family will pick up one of the photos and say, that we want to pursue this one.
How old is a man in that situation when
It
he
depends. He can be 10 years older, or he can be 2 or 3 years older. But usually, in most states in India, the men are older than the women. But I think in Punjab, it's the woman is older than the man. So yeah, but usually it's within 10 years. Um,
and is divorce a thing?
in India, divorce is happening recently, but it was looked down upon or stigmatized a lot before. So
Well, I got to tell you. First of all, I'm glad you came here. Could you have gotten a PhD in India?
sorry.
Could you have gotten your PhD and your doctorate in India had you stayed there rather than coming to the United States?
Yes, because I come from a Bhadralok class. So yeah, Bhadraloks are allowed to go to college and get a higher education, and pursue, pursue certain professions. For a girl, certain professions are allowed. Yeah, you cannot be a weightlifter, but you can become a chemist. Yeah.
Can you be like a CEO of a company and be a woman?
It's not easy. um, but there are Indians who are CEOs of companies, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
Indira Nuri is the CEO of Pepsi Cola. So yeah, I mean, women definitely can rise to great heights if they want. They are open to do that, but there are many obstacles in their way. There are many. There is very little encouragement, little push. So if they do rise, that means they did it on their own. They fought a lot and did it on their own.
Well, I'm just glad you're here now because Houston is different than even though it's Texas, Houston is different than India and stuff. So let's talk more about you. Do you have another book in the works?
No, right now I'm just so busy promoting this book, going to book club after book club and talking to the ladies. Um, you know, I just feel like we write the book, but our readers have a soul connection with us. So when I talk to them, they open up and then they start to tell me their stories. And then, a lot of healing takes place, both for me and for them. So I absolutely love going to these book clubs and talking to the ladies there.
It's a
Mhm.
lot of women, well, and you know this, that there's a special bond between, there can be, between women that men generally don't have,
Mhm.
and you tend to be able to support each other in really cool ways. And that's one of the things that, me being a man, I kind of miss that other men, and I don't have that kind of relationship that
Mhm.
women tend to have.
Yeah.
Is that biological? Why do you think that is?
So, in my story, I show that kind of relationship between Parul and Mohini. So, the maid and the employer's daughter have that kind of relationship that they share everything. They tell each other everything. They play together. Whenever one is heartbroken, the other one, consoles her. They're able to share everything. But as they grow up, you know, um, Parul notices that Mohini is changing, that she wants to hang out with her school friends more. When the school friends come to their house, Mohini calls Parul a maid in front of them. So their roles are kind of chosen from them, right? I mean, both, they want to be sisters, they want to be very close to each other, but the class kind of tries to separate them by putting a lot of pressure on this relationship or this friendship. And so, I mean, I've shown in my book, in many different scenes, that Mohini slowly is pulling away from Parul. She's becoming more and more conscious that, that I am more cultured, I'm more educated, I have different friends, I'm going to college, and Parul is left behind. Parul has nowhere to go. So Parul wants to hang out with Mohini, but she's not allowed to. So their relationship slowly falls apart, and this tremendous sisterhood they used to experience actually goes away. And I show Mohini having a lot of regret later on, because she understands that Parul is moving away from her. Parul stops, as they become young adults, Parul stops sharing her stories with her. um, Parul, goes out of the house but doesn't tell Mohini where she's going. Parul covers up, covers herself up. I mean, Mohini is aware that Parul has new friendships, that she's sneaking out of the house, she's doing things behind her back, but there's nothing Mohini can do about it. So this very, very close relationship they had growing up starts to starts to fade, and this has, in the end, it has devastating consequences for this family.
That
This
is
is
so,
something.
that is so sad
Yeah.
that
um,
happens, but it happens to people, that kids form relationships at school, and they decide that that's who they want to hang out with, and stuff like that. So it's too bad. It really
but
is.
you are absolutely right that women share a lot, and women also support each other a lot. I mean, in India, if anything happened in my house, five of the neighborhood women would come and help us through the trauma, or whatever tragedy has happened. We could share a lot. We could, I think, so you can live through a lot of bad experiences because you have these strong female relationships, a strong female bonding between women. This is how you take away your pain, by being able to share.
How's the relationship in India between men and women? Is there a division there as well?
Relationship between men and women in
Between men and just people, like in the workplace, or not men and women that are married to each other, but just in the same social circles. Do men only hang out with men and women hang out with women, or do they hang out with each other?
um, I'm going to say, even now in Houston, where I live, when I in the Indian society I see here, in most gatherings I see men hanging out with men and women hanging out with women. Men are always talking politics, or they're
Ah,
talking about where the country is going, and then the women will be talking about saris and jewelry and things like that. So I see this. I do not know why they don't sit together in the same room and talk to each other, but I see this clear division always. Yeah.
and I saw this. I have a couple of good friends that are of the Mormon faith, and they have got a cultural society that operates in a certain way. And I saw that all the women gathered around in a certain place and
Mhm.
were having their conversation,
Yeah.
and the men were over here having their conversation about all
Yeah.
the important things in life, and the
Right.
women were talking about recipes
Yeah.
and kids and things like that, I guess. So
Right. 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 Exactly. That's exactly what happens every time. Yeah. Uh,
and it's too bad, because if we had conversations with each other and we understood, that's the one way of getting to understand each other, is to actually talk with one another and listen.
right. Right. So that's one of. I mean, I don't. I'm not talking about men and women, but one of the things I wanted to write this book about is, or the impetus for me to write this book, was that I noticed that in most religions, most religions, hardliners are becoming more important, right?
Yes.
And and they're shifting more and more on the right, and then and that ultimately is causing more and more violence, right?
Yes.
So uh, I talked about Hindus and Muslims, but I saw that all over, right? In every single religion, um, the hardliners are winning, and I wanted to address this in my book, and ask this question: that what can we do about this? Why is this happening? And and I had the same suggestion that you just gave, that we have to talk to each other. We cannot, blue people cannot just talk to blue people, and red people cannot talk to red people, right? I mean, we have to find a way to talk to each other, even if I mean, I have an uncle who doesn't like Muslims, right? He's Hindu and he doesn't like Muslims, but I make sure that I talk to him. Yes, I don't like his views. I don't like you know what he has to say about other people, but I still make sure that I keep the conversation open, and I try to reason with him, and I try to change his mind, and I try to give him real life examples of people, right, who have done good things for me and are of another religion. So somehow we cannot just stay in our own little bubble, or our little arenas, right? And think everything is okay with the world. Everything is not okay with the world. And if we get so isolated and so alienated from each other, this will lead to major violence, and we are already seeing that, right? So we have to find a common ground. We have to find a way to talk to each other and showing our humanity to each other. That at the end of the day, what do we all care about? We care about, having a family, having children, sending them to school, getting them a good education, being able to earn a wage and live a life, right?
Yep.
We are no different. We are all over the world, people want the same things. Okay, nobody is planning or plotting anything against anyone. They're just trying to live a good life.
And it helps when we can live that good life together as all one people, but we have to talk to each other, and we have to accept the fact that, you know and I know that it goes back thousands of years, but Hindus and Muslims and Christians and Jews and everybody, we need to talk together. And it's okay to have a different religion,
Hmm.
but it's not okay to treat other people differently because of the religion that we have. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, you can have your own God, and I don't care how you pray to your God, okay? But uh, there should be love, you know? I mean, we are all the same. We are all humans. At the end of the day, we care about the same things. We are, our lives are very, very similar. We are very similar people. So why should religion divide us? Why should religion come between us?
It should not.
Yeah.
It really should not, because you're absolutely right. We are all one people, and we're all humans and stuff. By the way, we have been talking with Saborna. So could you tell me your name, please, so that I don't screw it up again?
No, no, you're doing very well. Saborna Roychowdhury.
Saborna Roychowdhury, and get the book Everything Here belongs to you. It's a number one bestseller in Canada, and you can go to Amazon. You can go everywhere to get it, right? And you
Barnes
can
and
also,
Noble, yeah.
yep, Barnes and Noble. You can
Mhm.
also go to her website, which is
HTTP www.sabornaroychowdhury.com.
spell Sabornia Rocho. Spell your name.
Yeah, it's Saborna. Roy Chaudhary is Roychowdhury. All one word, sabornaroychowdhury.com.
And you are a pleasure to talk to, I have to say.
Thank
And I really appreciate you writing this book, because even though it's a novel, it's got reality all over it.
Yes, I've drawn from my own experiences. It was a pleasure talking to you too. You're a wonderful host, and what you do is very, very important, and we're all grateful that you do this.
Well, why, thank you very much. I'm really grateful for what you've done. So I guess we'll have the Mutual Grateful Society.
I'm a member.
You are simply awesome. And in order for us to make meaningful change, we have to shed light on some of the things that are people would rather not talk about. You
Right.
know, it's
Taboo
impolite.
topics. Yeah.
It's impolite to talk about the fact that you've got people that can't sit on the furniture and they have to sit on the floor and stuff. And um, I it just blows me away. But that's just me. I need to go ahead and go. But is there anything that you would like to say before we end the podcast?
All I'm trying to say is please read the book. Everything here belongs to you. It has many important themes and messages. And also, this book is kind of a micro view of a macro geopolitical situation. So you will understand what is happening in India at this very moment. It's almost a snapshot of the geopolitical situation in India at the moment. So if you care about Indian politics and you want to understand it, this is the book you should read, because everything that is happening in the whole country is happening in one house, in one family.
Very well said. Very well said. By the way, I got to ask you, in your house, did you ever have any cobras come by?
No snakes in my house, unfortunately, and no elephants either.
Did you say unfortunately or fortunately?
Yeah, fortunately, I should say.
Yes, snakes. When elephants, you have elephants wandering around.
Well, when I first came to America, a lot of people asked me if I owned an elephant, if I rode an elephant. So I
Oh,
want to tell you
now
right now, no, unfortunately, I didn't have any.
now that's a stereotype. If you know, it's like, um, it's like,
Hmm.
I suppose, now are cows still sacred in India?
Yes, and they've become even more sacred now after. Well, we have a new government, right? It's a Hindu government. It's called BJP, and they have said that cows are so sacred that you cannot kill them and you cannot eat beef. So cows, well, a lot of people, there are I think there are like called cow vigilantes who go from house to house to find out if you're eating beef, and if you are eating beef, then violence will be done to you.
Oh, good heavens! Good heavens! Can't we?
So cows are that sacred. Yeah.
So cats. So in a country that has a population that, in some cases, are hungry and they can't eat any beef because they're sacred.
Yes. So to the Hindus, the beef is sacred. And so, Muslims are beef eaters. Um, so India has like 14% Muslim population. That's almost 200 million Muslims. And even though, it's only 14%, 200 million means it's the largest population of Muslims in the world. And now they are told that they cannot eat beef, and especially in rural areas, if people find out you're eating beef, then you're in a lot of trouble. You can get arrested, you can get beaten, you can be almost killed.
We have got a lot of work to do in our world, I'm afraid,
Yes.
to make it
And
better
it's
for
going in
everyone.
the wrong direction.
It seems to be. Seems to be. But, sometimes the pendulum swings farthest to the wrong side before it comes back to the right side.
Yeah. Lot of journalists have shown a lot of similarities between Hindu extremists and white supremacists.
Yeah.
Their views are very, very similar, and so somehow American politics is very uncannily resonating with Indian politics right now.
Oh, that figures. That,
Yeah.
that- oh goodness, I'm not going to sleep as well tonight as I wanted to. We got to all get along, and this yelling and screaming and calling each other a liar and not believing anything that is actually true, and then the conspiracy theories and all that
Yeah.
stuff. It really is. It's disheartening and it's frightening.
It's exactly the same in both the countries right now.
Oh, goody. Well,
Yeah.
and you got 1 billion people. And so it's amazing. So again, we've been talking with Saborna Roth.
Roy
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And will you come back and we need to talk some more?
I'll definitely come back if you invite me back.
Of course, I'll invite you back. You're awesome. So thank you for being here. And if you wait right there, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for enjoying this episode all the way to the end. Please give us a like and subscribe to this channel. This has been a production of PositiveTalkRadio.net. Please visit our website, oddly named PositiveTalkRadio.net, for more details about us and our mission, which is to provide great positive programming designed to inspire us all. I'm Kevin McDonald, and I'm proud of these shows, and I truly hope that you'll like them and share them with friends and family. So on behalf of our entire team, remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we got.